Hello, everyone. We are here and we are live. Welcome to a BarMax webinar. These are free information sessions that we provide for everyone who's studying for a bar exam. And in particular, this one is airing live at the very end of March of 2021. And I'm hoping that any of you who are taking the July 2021 bar exam will find it really helpful. Today, we're going to talk about open book study. I recommend this in some of my other videos and when I communicate with BarMax students through support, people who are asking me questions about their studying. And so today I'm going to answer some questions about it and demonstrate the process. Basically, I'm going to quickly go through what is the active study open book method that we recommend for bar study. Why do we recommend it? And how should we implement it in a bar study program? Now, this webinar is for people taking any bar exam because all, 49 states and all but one territory use the multi-state bar exam, which is the same in all of those states. And so this method applies to that, and this applies to essays. Every state uses essays. Now, at BarMax, we do have comprehensive programs, meaning we cover everything you need to know about the bar exam for California and all of the UBE states, which is New York, Illinois, DC, all of those. But this particular webinar is good for everyone. Because all of the states use the MBE, all but one, and all of them use essays. And one more thing about just bar exams in general, New York's bar exam application opens in 9 hours, 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, April 1st, which is in 9 hours from now. Now, if you have looked at the New York Board of Law Examiners website, you know that there's a link to several links to all of the different documents that you need to have ready to submit. There are usually 14,000 people who sit for the July bar, 14 in New York, but there were certain populations who were excluded from taking a bar exam last year. So we expect there to be more than that many people interested in taking it, but New York is closing applications after the first 10,000. And then they'll take some additional applications from anyone who is unsuccessful in February. So if you intend to take the New York bar, make sure your materials, your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, you get them in soon so that we can help you to pass that bar exam in July. Okay, again, this program is for anyone and it works. The method works with any bar exam program as long as you're working from some real past bar exam questions. Obviously, we want people to use the BarMax program, but I'm hoping I have helpful information here for everyone. These are our comprehensive programs I mentioned. This is the MBE only program. Sometimes people from Florida, other states that have a unique exam that still includes an MBE component use us just for that component. And we also offer tutoring on either part of the bar exam, again, UBE, California, or MBE. And we've just launched bundles. So, all right, back to our agenda. Oh, there was one more announcement. I'm going to take Q&A when I've kind of gotten through the basic material because I want people who have to leave, early to get the good stuff and people who are watching this video on replay to kind of get my core material first. And then I'll take Q&A that's posted in the Q&A section. If you have general questions about bar exam study, about BarMax, any issues you're having, anything, if you want somebody to reach out to you from BarMax, do you want to set up tutoring, anything like that, just put that in chat, because we have some of my colleagues in chat right now who can handle those questions as I'm doing my thing. But I'll answer questions live that I see in Q&A after I cover the basics. So don't ask it now, I might answer it, right? Anyway, so my goal is to get through the material at a good clip. So what is the active study method? Why do we recommend it? And how should it be implemented in your bar study? I've demoed this in other videos, but it boils down to these 4 steps. Step 1, read the question. Okay, that's pretty obvious, Celeste. Come on. We've made it through, 17 years of education by now, elementary, high school, college, law school. I don't know. I lose count. Some of you have 19, 20 years of education, read the question, right? The call of the question first, the facts and the answer choices second. In fact, sometimes you won't even read the answer choices before you go to step 2, but you'll read the call of the question and then the facts. Step 2, this is what's different about our method, and this is the most important part. You will stop and look at the rules. What do I mean by look up the rules? Use your bar review outline, whether in a book or online. I'm going to demo this later, but these are just the steps so you know what's coming. Step 3 is answer the question, and step 4 is check your work. Obviously, what it looks like will be a little different for multiple choice questions and essays, so I'm going to demo one of each when we get to the how part of this presentation. But first, why? Why do we recommend active study, open book bar study, and why should you be using this method? The answer, as it comes from the title, is the difference between passive and active studying. Think about what people think that bar review is. Sitting and listening to a lecture and reading an outline, right? So doing those two things separately, they say that reading a lecture results in about listening to a lecture results in about 5% retention. You need to memorize more than 5% of the material in the lecture, so let's do better than that, right? Well, if you listen to the lecture and read the outline side by side, the retention increases slightly, but this is still passive behavior. And reading someone else's explanation of how the material applies is still passive. It's the equivalent of demonstration. It's still passive reading someone else's explanation of how the material applies. And it results in less retention than the more active method. Okay? Well, what about doing practice questions, Celeste? Yes. That is more active because we're practicing and we're seeing how the rules apply to the questions. But there are passive and active modes that you can be in while even doing practice questions. And here's what I mean. Back when I studied for the bar, I'd do a set, 10, 20, 30 questions, whatever. Let's say I just do 10. Then after that 10, I'm supposed to review them, right? What do I do really? I just check the ones I got wrong. I look at why. I go, oh, yeah, that rule. That's very passive. Okay? Think about it. 10 questions. Each one makes you manipulate or work with at least 20 or 30 rules. Seriously. There are 1 or 2 rules for the right answer choice, and then you need to know the rules that help you eliminate those wrong answer choices. I'm just talking an MBE question. An essay, even more, right? You need to know things more deeply. So By the time you've done 10 MBE questions, you've had to manipulate and apply maybe 20, 30 rules. Some of them you really know, but the most of them you kind of know and you give your best guess. Okay, if you're diligent, you even review the ones you got right, but you're still just saying, oh yeah, okay, fine, that rule. I'm telling you, this is not the best use of your time. You end up like this guy. Do too many questions this way, and you are just reading other people's explanations of the answers. Please don't do it like this. Okay? Instead, we want you to stop and look up the rule. And so why? Okay, because it's going to result in better comprehension and retention. If you are looking at, someone says the screen isn't clear. I just noticed that message. I'm so sorry. Is it okay now? I'm sorry, I just noticed that message. I hope this is clear. It's just kind of the words I'm saying. Okay, I think someone's having trouble with their device. I'm sorry, I want you all to be able to see this. Anyway, doing this in an active way will help you comprehend how the rule applies. Think about that. And the bar exam is not about reciting rules. That's part of it in the essays, but it's really about applying rules, knowing which rules apply. So in order to understand all the stuff in the lectures and outlines, you want to see it applied to real questions. And then you're more likely to retain it because now that rule is sticky. That rule is stuck to a fact pattern in your head. So you're thinking about the fact pattern, you go look up the rule, and now those two things are together in your head, and you have an example of how it applies. You get better at application doing real questions. Why? These testers are tricky. I want you to learn their tricks. I want you to see the sub rules or exceptions to exceptions that they love to test over and over. And I want you to see the tricks of wording that they use to lead you to a distractor answer. For example, there might be an answer choice that would be great for one kind of claim, but the call of the question says the plaintiff filed a different kind of claim. So that answer choice turns out to be irrelevant. And that happens a lot. There are other tricks like that. I've talked about them in some of the past office hours that are available within BarMax, but you get better at it just by practicing. And then finally, you have better engagement with the material. Again, we don't want to end up like this. You know, I noticed that these things, sticky, tricky, don't make studying icky, right? Okay, that's kind of silly. Let's get into the how. How should this be implemented? Whoa, look at that. I'm going to fix my error right now. How should this be implemented? How should we implement it in bar study? Okay, I said that first we read the questions, second we look up the rules, and steps 3 and 4 vary a little bit between MBE and essay questions. So in an MBE question, when you answer the question, you'll eliminate the wrong answer choices and select the multiple choice answer. And then you'll check your work by reading answer explanations and rechecking the rules if needed. Let's look at an example, a real live example. Okay, so here I went to the UBE screen. And actually, you know, the California course looks very similar. It just says California up here, and it includes all the subjects on the California bar instead of the UBE. Now you'll notice that when we go into each subject, I'm going to choose crimes. Okay, when we go into each subject, we have a lecture for each subject This is one of them. Okay, the lecture comes with the outline. I mean, if I play it, you can hear Ronald Sullivan, who has a deep booming voice. You can hear him. He's a professor at Harvard. You can hear him giving that lecture, but we'll skip that, at least for today. So you hear the lecture segment, and then you'll notice there are some flashcards, but what I want you doing is jumping right to these multiple choice questions. That's funny. I thought there were 11 here. Let me see. So the point of these, let me go back. The point of these 11 questions or 10 questions is not to test you. Did I memorize everything in the lecture or reading the lecture, listening to the lecture while reading the outline? Remember, you're only going to memorize like 10-15% that way. That's brain science. I hate to break it to you, but even listening and reading at the same time, they say typically 15%. Maybe because you've had all this school and you're lawyers and you're familiar with some of it, maybe your retention will be higher. But at this point, we're not trying to test you. Hey, you're just about to, tomorrow is April 1st. The bar exam is at the end of July. That's when the test is. You'll be doing more self-testing later in your bar study. But for now, you want to train yourself how to choose the right answer on the test. So these are actually for training. These are for learning. These are real past questions, so we use them as learning material. We do the questions after the lectures, and then we go ahead and do some additional questions from the MBE questions page, where, like, again, going to crimes, there are 206 past crimes questions that are still active and in terms of licensed from the NCBE and offered for use in bar practice. So we use those 206 crimes questions plus the ones in practice tests. Anyway, but getting back to the questions that we're going to look at, we're here in crimes against persons, or crimes against property. That's where I wanted to start. And we have this question. So how will we do the four-step process? Step one, read the question. Joe has committed. All right, we know our defendant is Joe. That's about it. Joe and Marty were coworkers. Joe admired Marty's wristwatch and frequently said how much he wished he had one like it. Marty decided to give Joe the watch for his birthday the following week. Marty sounds like a heck of a guy. On the weekend before Joe's birthday, Joe and Marty attended a company picnic. Marty took his watch off and left it on a blanket when he went to join in a touch football game. Joe strolled by, saw the watch on the blanket, and decided to steal it. I guess he didn't know about this. Okay. Before he could pocket it, however, this is an important sentence. He bent over and picked up the watch. Before he could pocket it, however, Marty returned. When he saw Joe holding the watch, he said, "Joe, I know how much you like that watch. I was planning to give it to you for your birthday. Go ahead and take it now." Joe kept the watch. Joe has committed larceny, attempted larceny, embezzlement, or no crime. Has Joe committed any crime? Now, we could guess right now. That would be the passive way to do it. The active way to do it is to make sure we know the rules. Well, first of all, can we eliminate any answer choices? How about embezzlement? Wasn't that something about when somebody has property in their possession or they're in trust or something like that? I kind of remember hearing that. This is maybe the thought process you'll go through when you see the question. So you say, let me get rid of embezzlement first. I'm going to look at the rule. Well, there's some intent here. There's fraudulent intent, conversion of another person's personal property by a person in lawful possession. Embezzlement requires lawful possession. Lawful possession can result from a fiduciary relationship or a trust agreement. Where am I? I'm in my outline. Okay? I'm looking at my Barmax outline. By the way, this is the UBE version, and this is the California version. This is the entire course. It is not very thick. Our outlines are pretty streamlined to include the rules that are tested and not a whole lot of fluff. And then this is just for the MBE course, those of you who only want the MBE. Anyway, it comes with the course, not sold separately. Anyway, Joe, let's see, where was I? Here. So we're like, okay, there's no lawful possession here. There's no point at which Joe was entrusted with the watch, right? So we can get rid of embezzlement. But then larceny. You know, we might want to jump to attempted larceny because he was given the watch before he could pocket it, right? But let's make sure by looking at the rule. Larceny is the wrongful taking and carrying away of another's tangible personal property with the intent to permanently deprive. Well, we know we have 4, the intent to personally deprive, permanently deprive, because it says here, decided to steal it. So I've got that element. Tangible personal property, that's a watch. We're pretty clear on that one. Wrongful taking, larceny requires the wrongful taking of another's property must be by trespass or misrepresentation. Trespass, getting into other people's stuff where you don't belong, because remember, there's trespass to chattels as well as trespass to real property. Okay, maybe we have that one. What about carrying away? Slightest movement will satisfy this requirement. Slightest movement, wait a second. It says here, he bent over and picked up the watch. Holy cow, he got beyond attempt. If we need to, we can go to the lecture on inchoate crimes, or it's about conspiracy and attempt, and look at what attempt is. But attempt is intent plus a step toward completing the crime. So we might have felt like this looks like attempted larceny, but hang on, he has hit every element. It was a wrongful taking, a carrying away, that is a slight movement. It went from the picnic blanket up to his hand, of another's tangible personal property with the intent to permanently deprive. Gosh, it sounds like actual larceny. It's definitely not no crime. So between these two, we're going to choose actual larceny. And why did we choose it? And you notice it's the right answer. It lights up in green. Why did we choose it? Because we actually looked at the rule. Now, we could have done this, just picked attempted larceny, and then we would have seen it was wrong, and we would go, oh, in this case, remember that even the slightest movement will satisfy this requirement. Yeah, okay, fine. This is a stupid rule, but now I'll remember it. No, you won't. You'll remember it better if you work through it yourself. Okay, so that's how you'll do an MBE question. Remember that step 4 was check your work. Well, check your work means read this, but if you're stuck, if you go, I still don't get why it's not embezzlement, or I still don't get why it's not attempted larceny, then you can look in the message board up here at past questions and see instructors if they've already answered the question that you have. Or you can reach out to us, by posting another question or reaching out in support if you still have questions. But most of these, you'll find that your questions will be answered either by this material here or by the message board material. What was I going to say? I forgot. Anyway, this is how I recommend you do it. I went through that process. You could see it for an MBE question. So, and I hope that's clear. What about for, I just want to make sure. Oh yeah, when we're in each lecture back here, you'll notice each lecture is broken into 7 segments. So you'll kind of learn like what's where. I went to crimes against property because all of the larceny related crimes, the harms or taking of other people's property is all here in crimes against property. Sometimes it's easier just to flip through the outline to see where the rule that you're looking for is. But, you know, again, these are the same outlines here. What does it look like for a multiple choice question? Let me tell you, this is really helpful on, I mean, on an essay question. This is really helpful on an essay question as well. For example, you'll learn not only how to apply the rules, but which parts of the outline are most likely to be tested in an essay so that you know how to write out those rules and be ready for that essay. For California students, we have these roadmaps because they have 1 hour essays and they're expected to hit a lot of points every time a certain topic comes up. For example, California students, if you do a few past community property questions, you'll notice again and again that there's some asset that one party brought into the marriage, which has appreciated in value during the marriage. And you need to say, okay, the court could use one of 2 formulas. You know, here would be the result, blah, blah, blah. You have to go through it a certain way. And the way that you check your work after doing that, I am so getting ahead of myself. Anyway, the way that you check your work, I'll show you, but you use the past successful exam answers to do that. UBE students, again, the same thing applies. You'll see which issues are tested over and over again. I want to tell you, for secured transactions, attachment, perfection, priority, default. If you see a secured transactions question, they want you to talk about attachment, perfection, priority, and maybe default. You just need to know a few basic rules for those things, and secured transactions could become your best subject. I have a roadmaps office hour on that one too, which I did. I like secure transactions. Anyway, let's go ahead and demo that essay like I said I would. Back here, I do have a slide. Okay, for essays, you can answer the question one of 2 ways. Either outline an answer or write an answer. So when you're in step 3, answer the question, you can either outline an answer or write an answer, and I'll show you what I mean. And then step 4, check your work. For California students, BarMax has every past essay question for California and UBE both. Every past essay question. And it also has sample answers for those. For MPRE, again, every past essay question. And here we have an NCB answer explanation, which I'll show you what that looks like, how to use it. And then we also have sample answers from 2013 onward. You can look at those to see if they're helpful to you as well. So let's go ahead and do our essay, shall we? Now, I chose an MPE civil procedure essay, and before my California people get sad that it's not a California essay, I want you to know all the civil procedure essays are probably helpful to you as well, just because civil procedure is also on the MBE, and it's a fairly new topic. So there aren't a lot of real past MBE questions. So if you want me to, if you are a California student or an MBE student and you want me to send you past MBE civil procedure essays, just write to me through the support part of the BarMax app. And if you are a California student or an MBE student, I will do that for you. I'll send you a packet. Anyway, so I'm telling you they're helpful, even though the format of the essay itself will be different than your exam. They're helpful for the content. But for today, we're going to look at how we would do this as an MBE student, keeping in mind that the roadmaps for California are a little different in terms of you have to hit a lot of issues. But this is how we would do it. Step one, we read the call of the question, right? Did the United States District Court for the District of State A properly deny bartender's motion to dismiss for insufficiency of surface of process? What is my first issue going to be? It looks like it's about a motion to dismiss for insufficient process. Well, insufficient service of process. That's a different thing, actually. And then whether it was properly denied. This is really small, isn't it? Let's make this bigger. Okay, so was it? I am not amused. There we go. Was it properly denied? And then question 2, because we want to read all the calls of the question before we do the essay. There's a reason for that, which will become evident as we go through. Do the federal rules of civil procedure permit bartender? Oh, this is bartender. We have different parties, so let's do bartender up here. Permit bartender to join a claim for battery against Dave in bartender's answer to plaintiff's complaint. Huh. So we have bartender making an answer, and what does bartender want to do? Bartender wants to join. So this looks like a joinder question. You know, did bartender, you know, or not did, it says, can he permit? Does it permit? So can bartender join, okay, a claim for battery? We don't know the facts yet, or maybe you do because you read ahead. But I'm, you know, imagining I'm a student. I'm doing this a little slowly for demo purposes, and you see that that's the second issue. The third one is, assuming that the federal rules of civil procedure permit bartender to join his state law claim against Dave, does the United States District Court for the District of State A have subject matter jurisdiction over that claim? Okay, so we're talking about this claim. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad I read this. Why? Because imagine I had spent all of question 2 talking about subject matter jurisdiction. Imagine I had thought that question 2 was asking me whether the court had subject matter jurisdiction over bartender, which it needs to in order for bartender to join, right? So is kind of unfair to split these into 2 testers. Well, now we know they might do that. Okay, so first, just the rule for joinder, then the rules for subject matter jurisdiction. Okay, you see why we read the calls of the question first, all 3 of them. Okay, sometimes there is just 1, sometimes there are 2, and sometimes there are 3, or even 4 if it's an evidence question, and tends to be more in California. Anyway, let's get to our facts. It involves a bar. Anyway, plaintiff, a citizen of state B. Okay, so we already have our parties. And you have to figure out how you want to take notes. I'm doing it on screen here. This is how you'll do it if you're taking a remote bar exam that doesn't allow scratch paper, which most of them don't allow scratch paper for the essays. I have videos about this too. So you want to get used to taking your notes on screen side by side with the essay, because that's how you'll do it on the real bar exam. If you're taking a paper in-person exam, then obviously you want to do this on paper. Why? You want to get used to doing what you need to do on exam day. Let's see. So we've got plaintiff, a citizen of B. That's how I like to do it. I like to put the plaintiff citizen. Well, I'll put the citizenship. Plaintiff, a citizenship of B, state B, make it really clear, was vacationing in state A, where he visited the OK bar. While he was at the bar, plaintiff was attacked and seriously beaten by Dave. Dave's not like Marty, right? This is a bad guy. A regular bar patron and a citizen of state A. So we have Dave is a citizen of state A. Bartender, also a citizen of state A. Whatever, we're just going to call him B. State A. Attempted to stop the attack and was also injured by Dave. Plaintiff sued Dave and bartender. I really like to get my claims in here for civil procedure questions. And even on the MBE, you want to keep track of what is my claim, okay? And on, or claim or charge for a criminal law question, you want to know that for, especially for evidence in civil procedure. Plaintiff versus Dave, where was I? Okay. Based on bartender's alleged negligence, battery against Dave, and a claim against bartender based on bartender's alleged negligence in serving alcohol to Dave after Dave became visibly intoxicated and belligerent. Plaintiff's complaint seeks damages in excess of $75,000, which we know matters for federal subject matter jurisdiction. So we're not going to, we're going to mention it and move on because obviously we meet that here. And they are reasonable in light of the injuries that plaintiff sustained in the attack. Yeah, any injuries? Have you walked into a hospital lately? Anyway, bartender was personally served with the summons and complaint, or Dave was personally served with the summons and complaint. However, the process server could not find bartender. He therefore taped the summons and complaint to the front door of the OK bar, where bartender found them the next day. Okay, but he actually got them. Does that matter? Bartender made a timely motion to dismiss plaintiff's complaint for failure to state a cause of action. We're not worried about that motion. Why? Because we know that none of the cause of the question deals with it, except for it exists. We're worried about that it exists because there was already a motion. When that motion was denied, bartender filed a second motion. So motion number 2, motion to dismiss for insufficiency of service of process. The judge also denied that motion. Bartender then filed an answer in the complaint, or an answer to the complaint denying liability. So we have bartender answer. So bartender has filed motion 1, bartender has filed motion 2, and bartender has filed answer. The answer also stated a claim for battery, a state law claim for battery against Dave, seeking $20,000 for damages for the injuries plaintiff suffered when he tried to stop Dave's attack on plaintiff. Now my head is spinning, right? Because I'm going, wait, this is only $20,000. And if I've taken civil procedure, remember it at all, I know that this number is kind of matters. And then they're also citizens of the same state. Okay, we're going to think about all that, but then we're going to remember that there's this thing called supplemental jurisdiction. Anyway, all of this is rolling around in our head. And to the extent we remember the rules, we want to write them out. Like, for example, if we remember that there's something called supplemental jurisdiction, we want to write the rule here, you know, and even if we don't know whether it applies or not, like write the name supplemental jurisdiction so that you can check the rule whether it applies. Because remember, step 1, this is all step 1, reading the facts, but step 2 is check the rules. So we've read the facts. We can, we could read the call of the question again if we got lost in the facts. Oh, but we should at least finish the facts. Dave has moved to dismiss. Dave, our defendant, our belligerent guy, has moved to dismiss bartender's cross-claim on the grounds of improper joinder and lack of subject matter jurisdiction. Okay, we have all these notes. Now we can go into our lectures. Oops, not into our Larceny flashcards. Let's go into our civil procedure lectures. And we are looking at, well, if we want to know if service of process was proper, we're going to look in personal jurisdiction. Okay, and it's going to tell us. Turn our attention now. Oh, there's Arthur Miller. Hello. Okay, so it's going to tell us how process is served. And if we want to go through this carefully, it's a good chance to reread these rules and to think about, okay, what qualifies as good service of process and why isn't taping a notice to the door of the place where someone works adequate service? Is it because it was just taped to the door and not given to somebody? Or is it because it's their workplace and not their home? Turns out both. Okay, but if we reread the rules, we'll remember that. And now it is sticky, stickier than that little piece of Scotch tape, I hope, right? Sticky. The facts are now attached to the rule in your head. So I'm hoping that is clear to you. But we also remember that this was bartender's second motion. And we think that might matter. Okay, because when we listened to the civil procedure lectures, we remembered that some of the pretrial motions, it's so funny, I like start these lectures and then I completely go off of my, okay. Some pretrial, some of the motions, I'm sorry, this is different motions, just in the pleading stage, when people are, filing the answer and their first motions to dismiss, some of these things have to be done in a certain order. And if we remember that, we're going to look at this segment of the lecture. We're going to say, where are all those motions and which ones need to come first? Lack of subject matter jurisdiction can be filed at any time. Okay, that's good to remember. Lack of subject matter jurisdiction can be raised anytime, even for the first time on appeal. But that's not the motion we're worried about. We're worried about this motion over here. Lack of personal jurisdiction, waivable, must be included in the first response. Venue, waivable. Insufficiency of process, now we're getting closer, waivable. Insufficiency of service of process, we have found our motion. It's number 5 on this list. A problem with the manner of process. Taping the summons and complaint to the door, problem with the matter of process. This Rule 12b defense must be included in the first response, motion or answer, or else waived by the defendant. So now we know on the merits, good, okay, service of process, and we would list the methods that are allowed in person, suitable age, at someone's home or abode as it is stated in the rules, or registered agent for an entity like a corporation. Okay. Here, tape to door, not good. But the timing, the merits of the motion, it would be a good motion. But the timing, bad, right? And we're going to use this rule right here. We're going to take this rule and copy it into our little outline. Okay? Must be included in the first response, or else it is waived by the defendant. Okay? And we can say motion to dismiss for insufficiency of service of process. Now, if I were writing this out as an essay, I would write out those rules. Insufficiency of service of process. But what I'm doing here is a quick outline. So either way, you'll do a quick outline. So I've gone through that, and then we have an overall conclusion for this section. We'll have a mini conclusion for this section, the motion is good on the merits, and a mini conclusion for this section, the timing of the motion was wrong. Overall conclusion, the motion was properly denied. Okay, we've just outlined section 1. I'm sorry, get excited. You will do the same with joinder. You will go to your civil procedure lectures, look up the rule on joinder and figure out whether Dave's is the kind of claim that can be joined. And then separately, you will go look up the rules on subject matter jurisdiction, and you will talk about the fact that the court does not have original jurisdiction. Why? Remember that less than $75,000 state law claim, 2 parties from state A. If this is overwhelming you, don't worry, you'll get lots and lots of practice between now and the bar exam. And supplemental jurisdiction, yes. And our overall conclusion. And I'm doing this shorthand. We would stop and look at the rules. You would spend some time in the rules, especially if they're ones that you're unfamiliar with. And that's fine. This is not wasted time. You can spend an hour playing with this essay, and it is not wasted time, because this is active learning time. This is how you are going to understand, learn, and remember the rules regarding motions to dismiss for improper service of process, what service of process is, what joinder is, when it is appropriate, and what the rules for jurisdiction are. You're going to learn it better by going through this problem carefully and slowly than you will just by listening to a lecture or even passively doing multiple choice questions, of which there aren't that many because it's only been on the MBE since 2015. I took a bar exam in 2015. We have no idea what civil procedure was going to test. We just guessed. Yeah, that was fun. Anyway, I did it. I passed. That was my last bar exam. I've taken 3 bar exams in 3 different states. I didn't do my bio at the beginning, which I probably should have. I'm new to a lot of you. I've been with BarMax a year and a half now, and I graduated from Harvard Law School many years ago, and I was a lawyer, a law clerk, a law professor in between. So there you go. There's my bio, and I love teaching. Anyway, that was how we outline, right? So we'll do the same thing for joinder. We'll look up the rules for joinder. We'll do the same thing for subject matter jurisdiction. Now, at this point, we can stop and check our work. Or if we want to do a full essay, we can write. I recommend that from the very beginning, you outline a few essays and write an essay, and outline a few essays and write an essay. Usually in the calendar, I've given specific essays like outline 2, write 1, outline 2, write 1. And I've recommended specific essays for that. And we have that for California and UBE. But then you can do more if you want. Now, why do I recommend writing from the very beginning? Because then you will go into handy dandy BarMax and your program includes essay grading. And you will go here, you'll click this, there's a screen that will pop up allowing you to submit your essay for review. And one of our graders will snag it and give you really helpful feedback about your writing. This is not a pass fail. You know, this is, here's what you need to improve. Here's how to use IRAC better. If you don't know what IRAC is, watch some of our other videos or read the little prompt we have in, you know, the essays filter page. Learn about IRAC, submit an essay, learn more about IRAC and how you could have applied it more effectively. In other words, we want you writing from the get-go in order to refine your writing process. Once you've got that down, then just outline. When you're later in your study process, just outline and then check your work. It's still active study because you're still doing all this work I did here, right? For each section, but it's just this outline and then you check your work. Celeste, how do I check my work? Okay, for California students, we have sample student answers that were successful on the California bar exam and high scoring. They are not perfect, but there are 2 for each question. So if you look at them, you'll know what the main issues were and you will compare your, first of all, did you catch that that was the issue being tested? Or that those were the key issues being tested? And did you handle it the same way? Did you use the same rule or a similar rule? Did you highlight the same facts? Did you come to the same conclusion for the same reason? Now, if one of the essays mentions some oddball issue, you know, at the bottom of the 3rd page that the other essay doesn't mention at all, maybe it was a minor issue and it doesn't matter. But the things that are the same between both essays are what caused it to pass. So that's what you want to emulate as you practice writing essays. And you can see more of these rules in the California essay roadmaps office hour, and also Jennifer, which was, those were done by Mehran and Brandon. And then our other instructor, Jennifer, did a great one about like what the graders are looking for in those essays. So again, you can look at those office hours. I should show you where they are. Those office hours are available here. You know, all of the past videos and such are here. Okay. Anyhow, so I'm sorry, I have I had my Zoom thing there. I meant to close out. Anyway, back to checking your work. For California, that's reviewing sample answers and comparing. And for the ME questions, there are NCBE answer explanations, but I'm going to warn you, they are super long and somewhat academic and pedantic. Let me show you. For this question here that we just did, here's the NCBE answer explanation. It has, what are the legal problems posed? Here's a summary of the discussion. Look, skip all of this. It's a waste of time. Jump to the point. Point 1, worth 30% of the points. All right, that's what I want to know. The court correctly denied bartender's motion to dismiss for insufficiency of service of process because, and then we'll look in here, we'll find the rules, we'll find the application, and compare it to our outline and what we thought the answer was, or, you know, compare it to what we wrote in our essay. Although really the best way to check your work on essays is to submit it to our graders over here. And you can purchase essay grading from BarMax. That's something I should mention. Even if you're using another bar review program, you can purchase essay grading from BarMax, and it's pretty affordable to get a 10-pack. I think it's like $200 or $300 right now to get a 10-pack. And there's lots of good feedback there, so it's kind of a bargain. So I would say do that, whether or not you're using our program. Just make sure that you're using real California essays or real ME essays from the last 10 years or so, and then our graders will be equipped to grade that and get that right back to you. So whether or not you're a BarMax student, you can do that. Anyway, that's point 1, 2. This is point through point 2 right here on joinder, which the rule is same transaction or occurrence, okay? Permits a defendant in the answer to state a cross claim against a co-defendant if it arises out of the same transaction or occurrence as the original claim. You could have just said a party may join a new claim if it arises out of the same transaction or occurrence as the original claim. And if you put same T or O in your outline, T or O, transaction or occurrence, then ding, 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 you probably got this right. And then you analyze whether this arose, this injury to the bartender during the same bar fight that injured plaintiff, whether it arose from the same transaction or occurrence. And then you'll notice there's all this blah, blah, blah. Like it's a little bit more than you would need in an actual essay. Occasionally I get students who come to me and say, oh, are these real essay answers? Is my answer supposed to look like this? Good Lord, no. Somebody spent a week on this. You get 30 minutes. Don't worry. Okay. Your answer will be far more streamlined, but you want to hit the issue, rule, application, conclusion. That's Iraq, not the country. The issue, rule, application, conclusion, not Iraq, for each, but Iraq, for each issue. Okay. You want to make sure that you're hitting it and being, pretty streamlined about it, but at the same time, applying that to the facts. You'll notice that there's a lot more application in issue 2. Guess what? It's because the facts really matter when it comes to same transaction or occurrence. And by doing more of these questions or reviewing more of these questions, you'll get used to that, because joinder, the subjects that are in this particular essay are very heavily tested. So I do recommend it. I think it's in the calendar. So there are other essays that you can look at that also test these same subjects. Reach out to me and support if you ever need recommendations on particular essays or get some tutoring time. Anyway, so we have the subject matter jurisdiction. You get the general idea. In order to check your work on an outline, you'll just review the NCB answer explanation. Now, in BarMax, we also have sample answers written by successful examinees in some states that publish those since 2013. We only have them if the states publish them. So New York, Minnesota, and one other state have been doing this since, we have some answers for most of the questions that have been asked since 2013. You can look at those as models, but again, this might have been the highest scoring answer, and it might contain more than you need in order to have a good, strong, above passing answer. They tend to be pretty extensive. They're written by people who type 120 words a minute, apparently. I don't know. In other words, you can pass the exam even if your answer doesn't look precisely like those samples. True in California as well. So that's the method. I've given you kind of the, the what, the why, and the how, right? The how to do it, but how do you implement it in a bar study schedule? I've shown you how to do it for an essay, and I've shown you how to do it for an MBE question. Where should it fit in your schedule? Your first time through the material, all of your studies should be open book. Why? Because that is a learning time. After that, you'll come to a period of review, which is a mix of learning and testing. And by testing, I mean doing essays under timed conditions and then submitting those to see how you're scoring under that way, doing performance tests, or MPTs, as they're called on the UBE. They're called California Performance Test, or MPT, doing those under time conditions. That's what I mean by practice. And also doing, of course, your essay questions. Let's go here. Let's go here. You'll see that your multiple choice questions To do practice, we have these OPEs, online practice exams. They're created by the NCBE. They are 100 questions each. You do them under timed conditions, as close to mimicking your real exam as possible. We also have them in book format for those of you who take your exam on paper. Anyway, that's what we mean by practice. So you'll be doing a mixture of open book and practice. When you do the practice, you then look at your analytics, which for some reason this one is now slow. You notice I have BarMax open in 2 windows. There's nothing that prevents it. Or sometimes I use my app. I'll have a question here and the outline here, and I'll be working on both. I'm an uber nerd, so I usually have a lot of things open at once. But anyway, you'll notice that here in analytics, I've got 0 because I cleared my past answer choices, which is something I recommend people do before practicing. But then you can look and see, how am I doing in not only in each subject, but in each area within the subject. There's a heck of a lot of hearsay tested on the bar exam, for example, and an inordinate amount of negligence. How am I doing in those 2 areas? You know, is that something I need to review? You'll look at the number that you're getting right and wrong, and then it'll help you know, okay, where do I need to do more open book questions? And hopefully at this point, you will have time during your review to work through these questions here. You know, again, open book format, 1 subject at a time. And if you want to do timed sets, if timing is an issue for you, you'll use mixed sets of multiple choice questions where the subjects are mixed up like they are on the exam. Because, of course, on the exam, they don't tell you if it's a torts question or a civil procedure question. It's why we read the call to question first, because it could say, you know, there was a bar fight, and you're thinking crimes or torts, and it turns out it's a civil procedure question. So yeah, you definitely want to read the call to question first. These multiple choice questions give you practice with mixed sets of questions that don't reveal what kind of question they are. Anyway, so when I was saying how should you use it in your bar study, your first time through each subject should be all open book, and the second time through should be a mix of open book and timed testing conditions, sort of practice. Let's see. So we're not going to be this person. We're going to do all of this. And I've pretty much gone through how to implement it both for MBE and essays. I think I've given you lots of reasons why BarMax. And again, I'm going to try to get to the Q&A now. I think I'll be able to do Q&A better if I stop screen sharing. Here we go. Are these multiple choice questions? I'm taking the Q&A now. So I hope that was helpful. It did go a little over an hour, but I hope it was helpful. And I do, I'm trying to get that small. Anyway, I do, hope that it helps people. And I will now take the Q&A live. Are these multiple choices from past MBE exams? Yes. Every question within BarMax, including the one that we did about the wallet wristwatch moving, that is from a real past question, or a real past exam. And the reason it's so important to work from real past exams is because these people are not very original. They repeat the same tricks over and over again, and they test the same sub rules over and over again. So you want to get used to how they write questions. Both really for your multiple choice and your essays, but especially that multiple choice. Not a question. Oh, just a thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Antonia, I like your name. Let's see. And please, Celeste, can you highlight the triggers in that larceny question? I would say that I can't highlight within, I'm not using my app today, so I can't highlight the way I sometimes do. But I can mention that in that larceny question, the trigger fact, like the key fact that made this an actual completed crime, was the fact that he moved. It says that he picked up the watch. And if we compare picking up the watch to the rule in the Barmax outline, it says any movement is enough to meet that element. And if we go through, we can see he intended to steal it, wasn't his to begin with. And Lisa Lucia says I should get a raise. Barmax, you can tell they're not embarrassed. Anyway, back to the larceny question. Now things are popping up and I'm going nuts. But yeah, so he intended to steal it. It wasn't his to begin with. And it would have been wrongful for him to take it, right? So it was wrongful and he moved it. So that was really what triggered the difference between attempted larceny and larceny. And once somebody has completed all the elements of a crime, they've completed the crime. He's guilty of the crime. One good thing to notice is that, like, reality of what would happen in a court doesn't matter for Barmax crimes questions. We assume that every fact is proven exactly as it happened, including things that are going on in people's heads. Okay. I hope that helps, Evelyn. Jamie, this is helpful, Celeste. Thank you. Okay, so Jamie, I think I answered this toward the end, but it is such a valid and important question. I'll answer it again. Jamie says, though I understand that we should use this method to learn the material, how do we keep the time in mind for MBE questions? Okay. At the beginning, you don't. He says, or she, Jamie, it could be a he or a she. Anyway, apologies if I've gotten your pronouns wrong. Will this method distract us from keeping the timing restriction in mind? At the beginning, don't think of it as testing. Think of it as teaching materials, as learning. Think of it as hypotheticals or cases that you'll read in your classes, maybe. Think of the ones that you use for practice as cases you read for class. You take the time you need to understand them. Hopefully, I know class didn't really let you do that because they wanted you to read 200 pages a week. Anyway, I went to law school too. Remember, that part of the hazing is over. You've only got this part of the hazing left. But later, when we get to practice, then you will be concerned about timing. You'll do timed sets. But you'll find that by then, you've taught yourself how to eliminate wrong answers. Oh, that's so important. You'll say, aha, I know why that one's wrong, because you've trained yourself how to do it. So it will go more quickly when you get to that point. But if you look at the Barmax calendar, the recommended calendar is assuming somebody finishes law school in May, starts studying then, and takes the exam at the end of July. So it's about 10 weeks. So for the first 4 weeks of that time, okay, so really it's more than a third of the time. I recommend that people just do open book practice. After that, so if you have more time and you're studying, over a longer period of time, think of it as, how many weeks do I have left? Okay, what's a third of that? Or maybe even a little more. For that amount of time, I'm going to focus on learning the things open book. And then I'll incorporate some timing into my practice. Okay. Hi, Celeste. Would you please address the concept of making up rules? Cyrus, this is important too. And it's so important that Jennifer did an office hour on it. So if you are a Barmax student, please look at that office hour. It was called, what was it called? Like emergency strategies or something like that. She did it brilliantly and I could not do it justice. Worst case survival strategies for essays, AKA making up rules. Okay. So I want you guys to look at that. And again, it's just for Barmax students. I don't think it's a webinar. I think it's an office hour. The webinars are free within BarMax or on the TestMax YouTube page, but the office hours, you have to be a BarMax student. But anyway, she basically says, look, if you kind of know the way something should go, especially in like wills or, you know, something like that, then look at the facts and engineer a rule that will allow you to apply all those facts. Okay. So I'm seeing more Q&A. And anyway, Cyrus, so if you are a BarMax student, go watch Jennifer, because she knocked it out of the park on that one. But if you're not, then that's kind of the summary of it, right? Is just, you know, look at the facts and then engineer the rule that will allow you to apply those facts to get to what you kind of know is the right result. It sounds really squishy, but let's face it, you're going to have a whole bunch of questions and a whole bunch of sub-issues within those questions, and that will happen at least once or twice, and you'll still pass the exam. Okay? You are going to work between, and notice we didn't offer that until like 2 weeks before the February bar. You're going to work your butt off, you know, the last 3 weeks before the bar exam to memorize as many rules as you can word for word. Don't worry about the memorization at the very beginning. Worry more about learning. But later, when you're memorizing, you're going to memorize as much as you can, word for word. But there will be something where you'll draw a blank, and then you'll have a strategy ready for it. So I answered that one live. Is the answer Larceny because he got up after picking up the watch? No, he doesn't have to move. That's a good question, Anthony. He doesn't have to move. The watch has to move. Even if he didn't move, the watch moved. Okay, so the item moved. That's enough to constitute larceny. Is it a stupid rule? Yes. Is it tested on the bar exam? Yes. That's why we want to know it. Okay. Thanks a lot, dear friend, says Luigi Pavone. Wow. I love it. Luigi, I speak Italian, so I like your name. Even if you don't speak Italian, I like your name. But anyway, prego. You're welcome. Hello, this is all, hi, this is all very helpful. Okay, IRAC outline follows a specific structure. Oh, okay, so was this not IRAC? So what I did was I identified my issue here. Okay, like how does this relate to IRAC? Okay, and I've got my issues here, and this is my rule. Okay. But I did not outline the entire essay. That's my rule, okay? And this is basically some of the application, okay? So my conclusion for this part, I could write the mini conclusion, mini C, merits of motion, good. So really, I wouldn't want to put it up here. I'd want to go merits, like, you know, and then I'd want to put my conclusion down here at the end, my mini conclusion. Okay, so this is kind of an IRAC, but it's very, very, very compressed, right? Rule, issue, rule in yellow, application, mini conclusion. And then I would do the same here, and then this here. I didn't do it, but if you need to practice, I meant to write merits. I think you guys know that, right? Be gracious. Okay. If you need to write it in more like closer to IRAC format to keep it clear in your head, then do. But when you are doing an actual essay and you have either 30 minutes for the MPE for the outlining and writing, or an hour for California for the outlining and writing, you want to spend about 2/3 of that time actually writing. So you want to get to where you're as shorthand as possible on your outlines. So practicing outlines. And yeah, my outlines are super shorthand. I used to just scribble a few words on the page. But since most bar exams are remote now, you know, scribbling a few words on the page ain't gonna cut it. I have to learn how to do it here. You know, I used to do all this as a chart. You know, very visual. I take a lot of notes, and my tutoring students know that I scribble all over the iPad page and share that. Anyway, Louie, I hope that helped. Do I tutor? Yes, Lori, I tutor. And we have a bunch of really helpful tutors within. Okay, this is a real long question from Lori, but we have a bunch of really helpful tutors. I am one of them. You can buy tutoring, or you can buy a Barmax bundle and have access to tutoring. And then just have them send me your, my schedule. Anyway, that's how you do it. You schedule with the tutor that you want. I tutor UBE and I do not tutor California, although I have met with California students about the MBE or to give them overall advice. But really, I want somebody California focused, say who's passed the California bar, and that's not me. I didn't take it. I just, I didn't fail it. I just haven't taken it, and I don't intend to. So I leave that to Jennifer, David, Brandon. We've got some California experts for that. But I do tutor UBE students, and I'm still taking people for the next cycle. I don't tutor as much as I used to because we rely on other tutors, and I do lots of behind the scenes fun stuff at TestMax or at BarMax. Cynthia, Doyle says magnifico, and then Cynthia, can I access the recording after the meeting? Yes, this will be posted within BarMax, first on the website and then in our next app update, but it's also going to be on the TestMax YouTube page. So it takes a couple of days. So you look at the TestMax YouTube page. I guess if you Google like BarMax, YouTube, bar exam videos, whatever, you'll get to the page, and there's a playlist of all of these like helpful advice on the bar exam things that we've done. I do not share the PowerPoint. It's actually a keynote. It's pretty rudimentary, and so you can watch the video. If you need to take more notes on it, you can always like turn off the volume and speed through it. And sometimes I mark the flashcard. Okay, Louis, the analytics does not include flashcards. Analytics only deals with your multiple choice questions. And I wouldn't worry about the percentage correct while you're doing them open book. It is good to kind of keep a handle on, what am I understanding and what might I need some help with. But where it's really helpful is after those OPEs, after those online practice exams. Let me show you guys how to clear your analytics. If you are BarMax students, like let's say I'm in my profile over here. Here's my profile, that's me. That was a good day. Okay, so if I want to clear my multiple choice history, I click this, and it's like, do you really want to clear all your answers? And it scares people because you're clearing your progress. But it's good when you're halfway through your studying to kind of, do a check and see where you are. So you clear everything, and then you do a test and one of the OPEs, and then your percentage overall, your percentage in each subject, and your percentage in each module within each subject. Brilliant, right? So that's super helpful. And it also links you to the other questions on that subject. It's a helpful tool. The other really important thing here is if you sign up for BarMax, you have to download this welcome packet, because all of these fabulous essays and sample answers and NCBE explanations and past performance tests and the calendar are all included in the welcome packet. It is a huge zip file, so I'm not going to click it now because I already have it, but you need it if you don't have it already. Let me get back to my Q&A. Please, what exam year is the Civ Pro essay demo? Yes, this was from the MPRE, so the multi-state essay exam, which is a segment of the UBE Uniform Bar Exam from February of 2011, and it was question number 8. Anonymous thanks me. So was the bartender ultimately at fault because he further intoxicated the defendant? Armand, here's the crazy thing. This question only asked about procedure, so we do not consider the merits of the claim at all. It never asks us to consider the merits of the claim. I think we'd have to know a whole lot more facts anyway to determine the merits of the claim, but we're not the judge, we're not the jury, we don't get to decide. We ultimately don't care whether these people are at fault or not. We just want to know, can these claims be joined together, and is state A federal district court the right place to hear them? That's it. How exactly will the online test work? Oh, Rayhan, I've done past office hours on this as well, but basically the multiple choice looks a lot like BarMax, you know, where you can kind of gray out, I think, or cross out, I think it's an X. Anyway, you can cross out the answer choices that you think are incorrect while you're going through your process of elimination, and then you select it. But you can only have this kind of scratch paper. It's called digital scratch paper. Now mine is obviously a Word document, but they give you a sort of note where you can have digital scratch paper. You can take notes. That is both for the essay and the MBE. Most jurisdictions allow some physical scratch paper, like you're on camera the whole time, right? So I didn't mention that, but you're being recorded, audio and video from your laptop. So you need, you know, a laptop that meets certain specifications, and they need to be able to see your face, you know, and you know, you can't get up and move around. It's pretty intense, and you get 90-minute segments. So you have to kind of sit there for 90 minutes. And some jurisdictions, most jurisdictions do allow scratch paper for the MPT portion or the California Performance Test portion, because there's just a lot to take notes on. So some people still do all their notes digitally. Other people use the scratch paper, and they allow a certain number of pieces, and you have to show both sides, like I just did, to prove that you don't have, you know, that you're not cheating or something. Although there's really no way to cheat on the performance test because they give you all the information you need. Anyway, I hope that helps, Rayhan, and there are other webinars and office hours, so both free and paid content that deal with that subject. Can we access materials? No. Okay, Gideon, the actual exam is not open book. It is good to clear this up. Thank you, Gideon. The actual exam is closed book. This is for learning the material, and then we'll practice the material closed book under test conditions, which means timed, not looking at anything except for the question and maybe your notes. So Gideon, there you go. The answer, the exam itself is closed book, but we practice open book in order to learn and to make our learning sticky and not icky. Michael thinks I'm cool. I don't know about all that. You didn't know me in high school. Roderick, you mentioned emailing you about a packet containing essay questions and answers. Yes, Roderick, if you are a California bar student with BarMax or an MBE student with BarMax, you don't have the civil procedure essays like the ones I showed you. So you can hit the support link in BarMax. Let me go there. You see this? Support. Hit that, write BarMax content, and say, may I have the packet of civil procedure essays? Or Celeste told me to come get the packet of civil procedure essays. All right, whatever you do. And it's already included in the welcome packet for the UBE students, but it is not currently included in the welcome packet for the California students, and MBE students don't get essays at all. But the reason we're including it is because there are so few civil procedure questions that have been released in the MBE that we feel like they're helpful to review, even if your state uses a different format. You won't use them as practice essays, but you'll use them as hypotheticals, as teaching problems in order to learn the doctrines that you need to know for civil procedure. How do you get time to outline the answer, then write the essay on the real exam? I think that's Jean, and Baptiste, asking that question. I don't really speak French. I just, pretend. And maybe it's Jean, but I think it's Jean. Anyway, when you get to the point where you're practicing, you practice doing it under timed conditions. So for California, I'd say take about 20 minutes to do all your outlining, and 40 minutes to write. You're reading, taking notes, outlining, and 40 minutes to write. For the MEE, it's more like 10 minutes and 20 minutes. And if you can get that outlining down just a little, it's good, maybe 8 minutes, 22 minutes, but you don't want to skip it, because then you'll find yourself writing and writing and writing. You'll never get to the third point. You'll go totally off the rails. You'll mix up your subject matter jurisdiction and your joinder, and then you won't have a nice, clear essay for your reader to read. So you do want to practice doing it that way. But at the beginning, at the first time through each subject, it's okay to go a little slower in order to make sure that you're learning and understanding the material, especially for the ones that you just outline, that you're just outlining as practice for yourself. The ones that you write all the way and submit for critique and feedback from Barmax, you might want to maybe write out your outline and then set your rules aside and try to write it in the right amount of time, even if your outline takes a little longer while you're still learning the rules. This is someone who says that she is a multiple repeater taking the California July bar exam and is going to change your form of studying to this method. I want to encourage you that this has worked for other repeaters. I have had students who did it the traditional way and then switched to open book and were like, bing! Like suddenly the material was making sense. So I am glad that you have found this helpful. And I really think that your plan sounds great. And again, you can reach me through the support link if you need a little advice somewhere along the way. Sometimes you get to a certain point, you're like, what do I do next? And, I handle those messages. Okay. Can you share your screen? I did. Oh, I didn't at the end. I'm sorry. I was showing all this stuff, Louie. Oh. I showed all this fabulous stuff and I wasn't sharing my screen. Louie, thank you for letting me know, but that was a long time ago, wasn't it? Well, we'll try. We're back here again, right? So what I was showing was that the mini outline might look like this. First, I have the issue up here. And then I have the rule here. And then I have some application and a mini conclusion. That is so tiny, right? It is just the briefest version of my outline for IRAC. So that's what I was showing. And some of the Barmax features I was showing, which my Barmax seems to be grayed out right now. There we go. Were how to clear my multiple choice history. I'm on the profile page. I got there like this. And I forgot I wasn't screen sharing anymore. Mea culpa. Lo siento. I'm sorry. I just throw in all the Romance languages. I don't speak any of the other ones, though. I know like 2 words in Chinese and Greek and German, like 2 words each. Anyway, this is where you download your welcome packet. This is where you clear your multiple choice history. They're both found under your profile. And I think I did show while I was still live where to submit essays, but that's up here. So basically all of this is in the left menu. I'm sorry I wasn't sharing it earlier. Louis, thank you for calling me out on that. Okay, I submit essays for grading. Okay, so Irina, I think what you do is you access, if you just want to, this is totally a good question. Irina says, I just want to submit essays for grading. I want to purchase essay grading. How do I submit them? So we have a free course, our MPRE course. So you create a BarMax login and you log in as if you're an MPRE student, and it'll say that you're an MPRE student. You know, when we see your, but that course is free. Hey, anybody that hasn't taken the MPRE and wants to know if you like using BarMax, take our MPRE course. It's free, and it is similar in that it uses all real questions and a streamlined outline. Yeah, anyway, so you'll, instead of saying UBE course up here, it'll say MPRE course. In fact, I can do that. I can say, oh, I want to take the MPRE on, you know, just make up a day, even if you're not taking the MPRE, and then you'll go over here and you can submit your essays. Excellent question, Irina. Or I'm sorry, I'm giving everybody, I'm putting accents on everybody's name. Irina, I don't know how you say your name, but I hope that answers your question. I downloaded welcome packet in early 2020. Leslie, no, it has not been updated yet. So hold off on downloading it again, because as you know, it's a huge file. So if you, oh, early 2020, not early 2021. See, Leslie, it's going to get updated again. Hit support for this and I'll send you what you need. Okay? Because it's going to get updated again, and I'm not sure what's in there and what isn't, but the 2020 questions aren't in there yet. Here's the deal. We had 5 bar exams. Well, really 4 in 2020. So there are February questions, July questions, September questions, October questions. So yeah, that's a lot of questions. And I had a busy year. Everyone else was staying home going, gee, what do I do during the pandemic? I guess I'll learn Russian. I was teaching 4 different cohorts of people the bar exam. This year I go back to 2 and I take vacations in between. Don't worry, my vacations in the past. I'm here for you now through July 31st. So Leslie, just hit me up in support. Say it's a BarMax content question and I'll get those to you. Evelyn also thanks me. Will it be possible to make or share a simulated exam video? Okay, so Jane, here's the deal. We've done what we can imitating it, and I also did a terrific office hour with some students who actually took the online exam in October and shared their experiences for my February bar exam students. They were like my panelists. Obviously they passed, but they did things differently. So it was good to see how different approaches could still pass. That was kind of cool. I thought they were great. So we have mocked it up as best we can, but then when it comes close to your exam, ExamSoft gives you multiple opportunities to practice. In fact, I think they require that you do these practice exams so you learn how to use it and know what it looks like specifically. But we've mocked it up and shown you how we think you should do practice questions, which is similar to the way I was demonstrating today. Okay, so Renee, from what I understand, the in-person test will be the same as the remote test in terms of content, but the in-person test is all on paper. You fill out a bubble sheet for the MBE answers, and you get ExamSoft and type up your little essay, but you'll have the essay question on paper for the essay questions and the performance test. So you have the benefit of being able to flip through the performance test, separate out your pages, and you'll have the benefit of paper if that helps you, but you should still get ExamSoft and write the answer electronically. We don't recommend handwriting exams. It's a disadvantage. Evelyn, working on 17 MBEs in 1 hour to work on pacing? Yes, in June and July, not before then. Okay. And So in other words, not during the first third of your bar practice. And even then you'll do a mix of timed sets and untimed sets. Okay, this is about whether or not I'm cool. And Louie forgives me for not showing my screen. You guys are the best. I'm telling you, this is really fun. Does the joinder question cluster with venue? No. Evelyn, this is a good question substantively in civil procedure. You really have to think of these as three separate issues, and that's why we teach them separately within BarMax. Joinder says, do these claims belong in the same lawsuit? No matter what federal court it's in, do these claims even belong in the same lawsuit? That is, are they related to the same transaction or occurrence? The subject matter jurisdiction question asks, is this the right state for the federal court to be sitting in order to hear this question? And the venue question is this the right jurisdiction in terms of actual district to reach this particular defendant? I hope that helps out. So they are separate questions, not clustered. Will New Jersey be remote in July? I have not seen an announcement on that yet, Glenn, but New Jersey's pretty good, aren't they, about updating their website? So check with the New York BOLE. I just don't remember. I haven't memorized which ones are remote and which ones aren't. A lot of them are, so I suspect that New Jersey, being, you know, a somewhat larger state, will be remote. But so you can check the your Board of Law Examiners or your admissions people's website for details on that. And no, NCBE has not released any new multiple choice questions, but there are essay questions released after every exam. So I would say go ahead and download the welcome packet again after we've updated it, which should be by the end of April. Okay. If you're a terrible typist, I would recommend that you spend 15 minutes a day practicing typing for the next month. Do an online typing tutorial. And then once you've got that a little better, like seriously, give yourself 15 minutes a day, or even, you know, a little more if you need it, in an online typing tutorial. Learn how to put your fingers in the right spot. And there are online courses that you can take to learn how to type, and it is totally worth it. But then when you still don't think you're fabulous, recall, most people handwrite at about 30, 34 words a minute. If you're beating 30 or 34, you're beating what you would get handwriting. And you can get there in just a month, just the month of April. Learn how to type. Okay, I'm serious about this. Nobody's penmanship stays legible for the entire exam. Plus, you lose the ability to cut, paste, move things around, make it look nice. They're not supposed to grade you down for it. But how can they not if they're having trouble reading it? Okay, so Roderick asks, what would I suggest for a terrible typist? Learn how to type something better than 34 words a minute, clearly and legibly, and start practicing all of your essays that way. Does the method I've presented apply to the MPT? Clarence, no. And the reason why is that you don't have to memorize anything for the MPT. They give you all the law you need right there in what they call the library. Okay, so you can watch some of our other videos about the MPT. The very first one I did, I think, was January of 2020, in the before times. Yeah, in January of 2020, I did on January 6th and 8th, I think. You can go find those videos. I also did sort of a webinar about it a little later. And Jennifer has done another session on the MPT that was super helpful. So I would say look at the past videos on the MPT and learn more about that and start practicing doing those just using the materials that are given in the MPT. My goodness, I think I've answered all the questions. Hooray! There's still a bunch of you here, and I see there's a whole lot of chat. I'm sorry I wasn't sharing my screen. We do, and it looks like Katie, who is here as TestMax Prep, our awesome Katie, is answering all of your questions. But if you want to reach me, come through here, come through the support link on TestMax. I'm sorry, on BarMax, okay, with TestMax Prep, or if you want to find it, just go to getbarmax.com. Either way, you can find me through here. Or if you download the BarMax app, which has some free content in addition to the paid content, and you can get to the support link. If you have a question for me, you can send it here, okay? And just say that it's for BarMax content, which means it'll go to me or Jennifer. We're the full-time instructors right now. We may have another person in there soon helping with that. Ayel says, I'm so glad to have chosen BarMax. Lots of nice features, no expiration, frequent online and Zoom instructions, essay grading. The MBE is also good, also real questions. This is basically an ad for BarMax that's written by one of our students. I swear this is not a staff member. More demos and essays and PT. Ayel, I would say go to some of the past office hours because we've done a ton on that, and difficult MBE questions that need more explanation. Ooh, okay. I might think about taking on that challenge. Sounds really hard to do in an office hour because I would confuse the heck out of some people, but it would be interesting. Anyway, we are building in more answer explanations for some of those. That's one of the behind the scenes things I'm working on, but I will consider that. Thank you, Ayel. All right, and I think that is it for today. Oh my goodness, we've gone an hour and 45 minutes. Thank you all for being here. So I hope to see you all again, and we're in it together. Let's do this. Bye-bye.